What if getting fired, again and again, wasn't the end of a career, but the beginning of the right one? And what if the person everyone in media dismissed as unemployable ended up outdrawing every polished late-night star on television? That unlikely story belongs to Greg Gutfeld, a man who didn't conquer late night by following the rules, but by breaking nearly all of them. From career wreckage to cultural outcast. By the mid-2000s, Gutfeld's resume looked radioactive. He had been fired from Men's Health for mocking sacred cows. Dismissed from Stuff magazine after staging a stunt so outrageous it landed in the New York Times. And in the UK, his run at Maxim ended quietly when circulation sank and his contract simply wasn't renewed. At 41, newly married, and unemployed yet again, the media establishment had written him off. How many firings does it take before a career is officially over? Most people would have taken the hint. Gutfeld didn't. Instead, Fox News made him an offer so absurd it sounded like a joke: host a panel show at 3 a.m. A time slot executives openly mocked. Who would watch? Insomniacs. Shift workers. Prison inmates. Practically no one. No one expected the show, or Gutfeld, to survive. A contrarian in formation. To understand why he did, you have to rewind. Gutfeld was born in 1964 in San Mateo, California, raised in a Catholic household, and educated in rigid institutions, including the same high school attended by Tom Brady and Barry Bonds. Then came Berkeley in the 1980s. Ironically, the epicenter of progressive activism didn't turn him left, it pushed him away. He later joked that liberals made him conservative, and conservatives made him libertarian. What repelled him wasn't ideology, but moral certainty, the urge to tell others how to live. Isn't that tension familiar to many people who lived through the culture wars of the last 40 years? After college, he drifted into magazine publishing. Success came quickly and recklessly. At Men's Health, he reached the top by 35. Then promptly fell off the ladder. The pattern repeated: climb fast, fall hard. But instead of learning restraint, Gutfeld leaned into chaos. Burning bridges and building notoriety. At Stuff magazine, he boosted circulation dramatically by pushing boundaries advertisers tolerated, until they didn't. His infamous stunt at a magazine industry conference, sending disruptive actors into the audience, became legend. It also ended his U.S. magazine career for good. So he left the country. London offered one last reset. At a global Maxim conference in Portugal, something unexpected happened, not professionally, but personally. Gutfeld met Elena Musa, a Russian photo editor and former model. He later said he knew instantly she would be his wife. She didn't agree, at first. When Greg Gutfeld proposed, Elena Musa hesitated. Not because she didn't care, but because she understood something most people miss. Love doesn't automatically fix chaos. Greg was brilliant, sarcastic, restless, and chronically unstable. His career lurched from one collapse to another. His reputation preceded him. He was funny, yes, but also unpredictable, allergic to authority, and permanently unimpressed by systems that demanded obedience. And yet, within months, they were married. Elena brought something Gutfeld had never truly had before: stability without control. She didn't try to manage him, edit him, or soften his edges. She stayed largely out of the spotlight, grounding him while refusing to become part of his act. She didn't need his fame, and that gave him something rare: space to breathe. How often does the right partner matter more than the right job? Still, even marriage couldn't save his magazine career. By 2006, Greg Gutfeld was unemployed again. Another office cleared out. Another box of personal items. Another polite explanation that sounded suspiciously like all the others. Not a good fit. He had been fired before, publicly criticized before, written off before, but this time felt heavier. He wasn't a kid anymore. The industry had moved on. Younger editors were rising. Safer voices were winning. The ladder he'd been climbing for years suddenly disappeared. This was rock bottom. And rock bottom rarely announces itself with drama. It arrives quietly, through unanswered emails, awkward conversations, and the slow realization that no one is waiting for you anymore. With no options left, Gutfeld did something almost unthinkable. He started blogging for the Huffington Post. A platform he openly despised. To outsiders, it looked like surrender. To Gutfeld, it felt like exile. But Ariana Huffington believed in ideological diversity, and she gave him space, something no one else was offering. Greg used that space like a wrecking ball. He mocked fellow contributors, provoked comment wars, refused polite consensus. He didn't try to belong. He wrote like someone who had already been rejected and had nothing left to lose. And strangely, people noticed. In those comment sections, messy, chaotic, and brutally honest, he met Andy Levy. Their online sparring was sharp, relentless, and funny in a way that felt dangerous. Not polished. Not approved. Real. Fox News noticed. Then came the call. The show no one was supposed to see. Red Eye launched in February 2007 with almost no preparation and even fewer expectations. The time slot was brutal. The budget was tiny. The set felt like a living room after a party that had gone on too long. The jokes crossed lines. The cameraman drank. Executives panicked. They moved it later. And later. Eventually, it aired at 3 a.m., television's graveyard shift. A place reserved for reruns and forgotten experiments. And somehow, it worked. At 3 a.m., free from expectations, Gutfeld created something television hadn't seen before. The show was irreverent, self-mocking, politically incorrect, and fearless enough to ridicule everyone, including Fox News itself. There was no polish. No lecturing. No pretending to be important. It felt human. A cult audience formed. Insomniacs. Night shift workers. People tired of being talked down to. Ratings climbed. Quietly at first. Then unmistakably. Red Eye began outperforming programs airing at sane hours. Why? Because it didn't feel manufactured. It felt like people being people. Messy, funny, wrong sometimes, honest always. From fringe experiment to mainstream force. In 2011, Fox took a risk and put Gutfeld on the 5. The show exploded. Not because it followed the rules, but because it broke them casually. It became the most watched program in its time slot, without being in prime time. Gutfeld worked non-stop, hosting both shows for years. Long hours. No safety net. No guarantee it would last. When Red Eye finally ended, he didn't retreat. He moved forward, this time with a weekly late-night program. Still, the broadcast giants ignored him. Until 2021. That's when Gutfeld moved to weeknights at 11 p.m., head-to-head with Colbert, Fallon, and Kimmel. Critics laughed. The format was wrong. The politics were wrong. The network was wrong. The audience disagreed. Within months, Gutfeld was beating every late-night competitor in total viewers. Not occasionally. Consistently. By the end of the year, he was untouchable. A man once relegated to television's graveyard shift now ruled the hour. What does it say about audiences when the outsider wins by refusing to play along? Reinvention, not revenge. Gutfeld didn't win by spending $100 million a year or chasing trends. His show stayed lean, sarcastic, and imperfect. While other hosts lectured, he mocked. While others moralized, he questioned. While some tried to sound important, he embraced being ridiculous. And then came a twist no one expected. At age 60, Greg Gutfeld became a father for the first time. After decades of instability, his life gained a new center of gravity. A reason to slow down without selling out. A responsibility that didn't dull his edge, but sharpened his perspective. Success finally arrived not as a trophy, but as something quieter, balance. The lesson hidden in the wreckage. Looking back, the pattern becomes clear. Every firing pushed Gutfeld closer to the one place that would let him be fully himself. Magazines wanted polish. Networks wanted compliance. Most doors wanted obedience. Fox's forgotten time slot wanted nothing. And that's what made it perfect. So ask yourself, what if the job that rejected you was never the right one? What if the criticism wasn't correction, but a signal? What if failure wasn't a verdict, but direction? Greg Gutfeld didn't succeed by reinventing himself. He succeeded by surviving long enough for the world to catch up. From a 3 a.m. joke to the most watched voice in late night, his story isn't about redemption. It's about fit. About patience. About the courage to stay yourself when being yourself keeps getting you fired. And sometimes, the people dismissed the most are simply the ones ahead of their time. This was just the beginning. Hit that subscribe button and buckle up. Digital Garage has so much more in store.